All right, I am going to go ahead and get started. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. My name is Edmund Dunn, and I am a full stack developer. Now focused on Drupal, although on the front end we do use some React and sprinkling of other frameworks. And I have been in the for about 6 years, and I feel like Drupal, when I went to my first Drupal con in 2019, I feel like I really found my tribe. The, I'm really excited to be here today. I work at Design Group. I've been working here for 2 years now. Atten has been around for 21 years. And it provides user engagement strategy, responsive and accessible design, and open source development to mission-driven organizations. And after 21 years, we work with some of the major mission-driven organizations in the world. Doing work that matters is one of the reasons I wanted to participate in this camp. As a disabled veteran, I felt that this camp is an excellent thing. I'm happy to share a little bit of my story, and hopefully it will provide some insights to others and maybe some information to other veterans and disabled veterans that are out there. Um, so the start of my journey. Before the Army, I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, 2 weeks after I graduated high school. In high school, I did study computer science, so that's kind of where I cut my teeth on writing code. Back then, we used um, BASIC on Apple IIe's, and then after we got our first Windows machines, we did some stuff in C++ using Borland as a compiler. I'm probably dating myself talking about that, but it was a long time ago. I joined the Army in 1993 and immediately went off to train as a Russian linguist and an intelligence analyst. And uh, it was a very rewarding career. I never thought I'd do 20 years, but I did do 20 years. I retired in 2013 from the Army. And while I was in the Army, I deployed several times. And I've been all over the world. I've been out with the Navy, my Navy ships supporting their missions. I've seen a lot of places and a lot of things. And while I was in the Army, I badly injured my back. And I'm now here as a developer 4 surgeries later when I found a career uh, after the Army that is something that I enjoy doing and I feel is very rewarding. Uh, my journey after the Army is the part I really want to focus on because that was hard, and I think it's hard for all veterans. The um, transition out of the service is tough because you're leaving behind a life uh, that is very regimented, and you're going out into the civilian world and you have to figure out what comes next. What are you going to do? And how are you going to deal with any potential disabilities that you might have uh, at that point? Um, all of the services provide a transition assistance program that is supposed to help with that process. It is not successful. Depending on where you're stationed and who's running the program at that particular um, installation, is some of them are okay. I've heard a few veterans say some of them are really good, but most people agree that it is generally not very productive. And it also focuses on things like interviewing skills at the expense of how am I going to live my life and finding a career. Um, part of that was some briefings from the VA or the Veterans Administration, and those are generally they get just very, very basics. They don't get into all of the benefits and services that the VA provides, and which is unfortunate because there are quite a few, and unfortunately we have to depend on word of mouth to spread the information about those and let other veterans know that they can go and apply for these things and get help. And help can be anything from dealing with mental problems like PTSD that result from the service, also helping with physical problems or disabilities that result from the service, and also things like the program I went through, vocational rehabilitation. There are also veteran service organizations like the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars that also provide assistance. They're generally pretty good with helping service members that have just gotten out find and to access the benefits to which they are entitled. For me, when I got out, I started working as a contractor with the military. It was an office job. I hated it. After about 5 months, I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I talked to my wife, and it was shortly after that I was talking to a fellow veteran and talking about some of my issues and what I was trying to figure out, which was what I want to do next. And he pointed me in the direction of vocational rehabilitation, or voc rehab. Voc rehab is a program that is designed to assist veterans with service-related disabilities find a new vocation. And they have social workers who work in all of the offices, and you are assigned a caseworker who then sits down with you and helps you figure out, one, what you are able to do in light of whatever physical or other disabilities you might have, and also help define then what you would like to do. And they provide support that is, they provide moral support. They also provide monetary support. That they pay for all the training, whether you're going for a master's degree or PhD or just basic certifications. They provide money for books. They buy computers, any specialized equipment you might need. Basically, it's all paid for. I also got some assistance from State Veterans Office, and I'm in Maryland, and I know not all states have veterans programs. Maryland does, and they have offices scattered throughout the state, and they also helped me identify services and benefits that I could apply to that would help me in the process. So when I started Voc Rehab, I really started the program. My initial idea was to become a social worker. I already had my bachelor's degree, and so I started a master's of social work program. And after a semester, I realized that the physical requirements of that program, in other words, sitting in a chair behind a desk, were not something I was going to be able to do because of my back injuries. My back injuries mean that I cannot sit in a normal chair at a desk or stand for long periods of time without a great deal of pain. And so I went back to my caseworker and said, this isn't going to work. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? And so we sat down, and she had me go through some of the vocational testing, kind of like what a guidance counselor does. And I looked back and I determined that writing code would be something that I could do. I didn't know what form that was going to take, so I did some research, and I found web development, and I thought this is something I can do, and this is also something I can do that will still allow me to advocate for veterans and help veterans, and I volunteer with several organizations uh, that uh, support veterans, and the uh, I found a local program at our local community college. They have a very robust and well-designed web design program and web development program. And so I registered for the web development program and started going to school. And it was going to be a 2-year process um, for me. And while going through that process, I found out that if I added 3 classes, that I could end up getting a degree in web design and web development. And so I went ahead and did that. And so uh, I think that's pretty common, where you have 2 degrees that are very closely related. Uh, the Some of the things I did that I think ultimately enabled me to be where I am today um, is these tips and pointers. Um, they apply to veterans, or for that matter, to anybody trying to get into tech. But it's also something that I think employers should be aware of, because they can provide a lot of assistance. And I think one of the common frustrations for all of us is that uh, when you're starting out and you're looking at job listings, that even a lot of the listings for junior developers and designers still want you to have experience. So the question then becomes, how do you get the experience? And so this is what I did to make myself stand out. Um, Networking, I think, was one of the most important things I did. I joined AIGA and started attending their events. I also um, looked up and researched some of the local companies that work in development and design, and went and talked to them. And a lot of it was informational interviews. I spent some time in a couple of different companies shadowing designers and developers, basically just going in for a couple of days to see what they do, just to get an idea of more specifically, where I wanted to go and how I wanted to work. Did I want to be a designer? Did I want to be a developer? Uh, did I want to be full stack? Did I want to just be back end? Those are the kinds of questions um, I discovered that I needed to be asking, and that I was able to find answers for. I also sought out mentors. Like the head of the development program at the college, and the head of the design program, both 2 different people, both ended up mentoring me quite a bit in the transition. And then um, after I got hired on at Atten, our head of engineering has really been a mentor to me as well. And all 3 of them still help me understand and figure out, professional development goals. Where do I want to go? Where do I want to end up? What is my long-term goal or goals? What are my short-term goals, and how can I achieve those? Uh, the Another thing I did was I saw a lot of talk at the time on social media, talking to people at AIGA meetings, talking to my mentors, that an internship could be an ideal way to get the experience that I needed. Uh, the and I started looking around, and most of the companies locally did not do internships. But one of our professors out there is an adjunct professor um, who works at a local company, mentioned to me that they do internships. So I approached him about it, and he talked to management, and they do accept interns, and they are paid internships, which turns out is really helpful, especially when you're a broke student. And so I applied and was accepted, and that internship uh, turned into a job interview and a offer of a full-time position um, at a local company, and I really learned a lot. I learned a lot. One, how civilian workplaces function. I learned a lot about design and development, and I grew a lot. In 2019, I went to DrupalCon in Seattle, and that's where I met Sally Shaughnessy from Matin, and decided to apply because I had decided that I wanted to pursue Drupal as a career. And the company I was working at, while they did do Drupal, they also did a lot of other, use a lot of other platforms and frameworks. And I knew that a jack of all trades could not be a master of any of them, and I really wanted to be a master of Drupal. I wanted to pursue it, and being at the conference and being around people that work in Drupal, I really did feel like I found my tribe again, like a group that I fit in with. I already touched on getting 2 degrees at the same time. I think that is so important. Um, I think having studied design, that it makes me a better developer. I did figure out that I enjoyed development a lot more than I did design, but understanding everything that I learned in design classes just makes it a lot easier for me to do my job as a developer. Um, Other things I did, I marketed myself. I made sure that my LinkedIn profile was polished. I made sure that I had a good portfolio site. I know portfolio sites have a lot of opinions on them. In my case, I think it really helped me because it gave me something to work on to just practice what I was learning in school, and it also gave a chance for me to show off some of what I learned. The, I've since taken it down. It was, looking back now, it was pretty basic, but I think it showed that I had a very strong foundation. Another thing, and I think a lot of people that have any sort of disability that they're dealing with would be familiar or should be familiar with accommodations. And this is kind of broken into 2 areas. There was accommodations at school, and by law, colleges and universities have to provide accommodations. And wasn't something anybody told me. One of my professors in one of my first classes mentioned it to me. And I was a little dumbstruck, like, what? What is this? And so I went and talked to our local accommodations officer to community college, and she hooked me up. And some of the accommodations I was able to receive at the college was because none of the classrooms had chairs that I could really sit in comfortably. I was allowed to stand up and either step out of the classroom and just leave for the day at any point, so that I wasn't hauling around 10 tons of textbooks with me. Once I purchased the textbooks, they reached out to the publishers, and the publishers provided electronic versions. Often those were PDFs, but there was also electronic versions through Pearson Publishing. They had their own proprietary setup. And I was also able to get extended test times for any tests and exams I had to take. that those were very helpful, and I didn't even know what I should be asking for, and the accommodations officer at the college was really able to help me figure out what I could even ask for, and that helped a lot. The other side of that is accommodations at work. Um, the I work in a zero gravity recliner because it's the only chair I can sit in for long periods of time without a great deal of pain. And I have a large monitor mounted on a swing arm. My keyboard is mounted on a swing arm. Um, and that all enables me to work efficiently, but also work in a position that is comfortable for me so that I don't have to stand up every 5 minutes and go try to relieve the pain or take medication. And this is all stuff that I asked for and received. I in my job, all of my job applications, I disclosed that I was a disabled veteran, but that's as far as I went. I know for federal jobs, or for that matter, for most government jobs, whether local, state, or federal, um, it gets you a boost up to the kind of the top of the list. Uh, and for colleges, universities, it's the same thing. It gets you that bump up to the top of the list. I didn't talk about any specifics, though. They didn't. And none of these positions did anybody ever ask for any of the specifics. And the only time we got into specifics was after an offer letter had been sent to me and accepted. And then we started talking about what was I going to need to accommodate my disability. And I haven't had any real problems getting what I need so that I can work. And so I think for anybody dealing with, especially with a physical disability, that they can and should speak about the equipment they're using with HR or whoever is assigned to handle those kinds of things. Because there's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot that they have to do by law, although some companies don't. Here is my contact information there, and you can see a picture of how I work every day. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I will answer them as best I can. Also, feel free, if you know any veterans or disabled veterans out there that need help or have questions, please feel free to pass my information along to them. I do have on LinkedIn that I volunteer as a mentor for veterans and disabled veterans wanting to get into tech. And I try I've put that information out in a lot of places with a lot of organizations. And because I think I was assisted through word of mouth. And I think it's important that I now pay it forward, and I help spread the word to other veterans. And for that matter, also to anybody else dealing with any kind of physical disability. And on that note, are there any questions? Oh, you're welcome, Tara. I'm happy to share uh, and talk about it. I think being willing to talk about it helps destigmatize it because it is what it is. Nobody should be treated differently because of a disability. Um, the fact that they're differently able. Um, and I think that those of us that are dealing with issues that are able to and are willing to talk about it and explain things, especially to people that just don't understand. It helps so much. Taryn, there's a lot of groups like Hiring Our Heroes, and I'm not sure how. I know that some of the large corporations, they talk about hiring veterans, but I don't think they really think about disabled veterans specifically. And um, I think there are disabled veterans who are severely disabled um, that still want to be productive. I think there's veterans like myself who I don't consider myself severely physically disabled, uh, but my injuries and the pain from them still has a huge impact. Kat, I think the biggest thing is you can reach out to your local vocational rehabilitation office. Um, Generally, those are located at the regional offices for the VA. Those are scattered all over the country. Just if you go to the VA's website, you can find the local regional office, and then find the office for voc rehab and talk to them, because I had to do lay a lot of groundwork for my internship for getting accommodations because um, generally with the vocational rehabilitation offices, there's not enough social workers or caseworkers to go around, and so they're running every which way trying to take care of everybody and don't have time to really dive in deep. And so self-advocacy was really important for that, to ask questions. For companies and people that are wanting to help, I think, though, that they can reach out. They can also reach out to their local veteran service organizations, their local American Legion, local VFW, um, Disabled American Veterans, DAV. This is really what they focus on. And they're one of the best organizations for really uh, helping disabled veterans. Um, I've found a few. I've had several reach out to me on LinkedIn and talk to me. I've had several service members that are getting ready to get out reach out to me, and the I think it's really an untapped resource, because writing code um, is um, not something that's physically demanding, and where you have a physical disability, it is um, that disability can be accommodated. Dan, my chair it's a human type zero gravity recliner. Um, it's 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 powered. The I try to get up at least once an hour, just to walk around. That's just kind of for my general health. I also walk. I can't walk more than about a mile without my back flaring up. And so every morning I try to take a break and take our dog for a walk just to keep my blood flowing. I also do some just kind of general stretches. And before COVID, I was going to the arthritis class at the local YMCA pool, and it was in a heated pool that was kept warm, very warm, and it helped a lot. And my uh, uh, Patton gave me the time because it was always during the day to go do that without they didn't make any issue out of it. Um, the So as a retiree, I don't look at health benefits because I receive um, health benefits for me and my family through the Army, and then for myself, everything is paid for through the VA. So anything health is covered. Um, that's just for me. For um, somebody that doesn't have that, can't take advantage of that, I would health benefits have to be important. Um, we just need that. The for PTO, um, it's it is something I look at, especially when you start talking about sick days versus regular paid time off, and how that's allocated. Um, the and what's the level of trust if I wake up some mornings and it's a struggle to get out of bed. Um, I'm fortunate at that, and that I can just slack my manager and say it's one of those days, and they're just like, okay, and that's that. And I think, just like most of us that are dealing with any kind of diversity issues, whether it be disabilities, women, people of color, it doesn't matter, that finding a company that you fit into is very important, because none of us want to be miserable at work. And um, I feel very fortunate that I found a company with culture and environment that is uh, very accommodating for my needs. And because of those accommodations, I don't have any issues getting my work done. And so I get it done. Um, and yeah, some weeks it has to be pushed off, but if they understand, um, and don't make an issue out of it. Um, the as for pay, um, the pay is important, but I think that the if it wasn't for my TRICARE coverage, I definitely would have considered health coverage, health insurance, and benefits, and prioritize those over pay, because that can be huge. Right now in the United States, uh, health insurance is important because healthcare is just too expensive. It really is. Um, Gigi, you're right. When you do list a disability, but the thing is that they aren't allowed to ask by law um, what your disability is or about it, and so I wouldn't list it, to be honest. If you're best qualified, you're best qualified. If they think you're the best fit for their company, you're the best fit regardless of your disability, and that's why. And I mean, I talked to our operations manager, who also heads up HR, about how that works. Like, what's the legal requirement, and how do what are companies allowed to ask, but they're not allowed to ask. And she told me that disabilities should never be brought up in the interview process. It should never be disclosed on a resume. I mean, you start getting into HIPAA requirements with that, and so, and for both jobs, with my job with both companies, it was never discussed um, until after I had received an offer letter and accepted it. And so, and then at that point, they asked, what accommodations do you need? Um, After I said, I'm disabled, and we worked it out, and everything worked out. The cat, yes, I have experienced some discrimination. The uh, because I can still walk and I don't look disabled, um, people at work and outside of work assume that I'm not. They, I think it would, sometimes I've thought it would be easier if I was missing a limb because then it's like obvious in your face. In my case, it was a back injury. Um, and so that's hidden. You know, my scars from my surgeries are hidden. They're under my shirt. So nobody ever knows unless I tell them. And even then, I often hear, well, you look okay. Yeah, so I'm telling you I'm not. And so that's always uh, a tough struggle for me. Just trying to deal with that. Tara, yes, absolutely. Please spread the word. I know that they're recorded it and it's going to be up. Um, uh, and I think that anything I can do to help spread the word, and um, I will happily do.
All right, everyone. Well, Edmund, thank you so much again for coming and being present in our space and giving us this talk. I guess if people want to unmute and clap, they can. If y'all want to emote, y'all can. But thank you so much.
Thank you, and I want to just also say thank you to the organizers for putting this together. I think this is a big deal, and I will uh, probably submit again next year for the next one, and I will do anything I can to reach out and support.
Yay! I also turned on the ability for people to unmute themselves if they would like to verbalize their support.
Thank you, Edmund. This was
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you so much, Edmund.
Oh, you're
Learned a
welcome.
lot.
Alrighty, y'all. We